Alright, so for this solve, you had your blue piece inserted. The orange piece could be inserted with an R2. And if you notice, if you do a D, then you have green and red positioned properly. So what you decided to do is to do that D move that I was saying, and then you did L, and then you did B2. However, what I immediately noticed is that after you inserted green, instead of going in with your left hand, you actually regripped. So you were here, and then you regripped to do the B2, and this could have saved you some time, especially because during the cross is usually a way to do the cross without a regrip. So what I would suggest to do, so that you could have a little to no regrip, is to have the blue in the back and then do the R2, and now you can insert green and you can insert red like that. However, that's not what you did. So anyway, so you went here like this, and also what I was mentioning earlier, you could have done a B2 with this hand, which would have saved that regrip. So anyway, and then you just inserted your orange, and now your first pair was these two. That was fine. You did you paired it up like this, and then you rotated and inserted. Nothing wrong there. However, after that, it should have been quite obvious from here what your next case was going to be, but you ended up doing this. And even if you you could have done this, not like that, but you could have done that to pair it up. But you did a U2 to pair it up from here, and then you inserted it, and you got pretty lucky. You got a cross made, and you noticed that this case was here. And now what you should have done was to do R prime to set it up and then insert with wide moves. However, you ended up rotating and then solving it with L prime U L, and then doing a U2 and then doing a sledgehammer. I mean a head slammer, but overall you could have saved that rotation and ended up with the same case afterwards, had you done the other way. But anyway, continuing forward, so now you ended up with this case, and the way that you solved it could have been much better, and it would have preserved the cross. So what you should have done was to do L prime U prime L and then just set up to this case, and that would have preserved the cross and given you with a pretty good OLL and decent PLL. But anyway, that's not what you did. What you did instead was to rotate, and then you did R U prime R prime, and then you rotated again. So you had two rotations, and generally 2 rotations per F12 case is not very good. But anyway, you inserted, and now you had this OLL. So you saw that, and then here you had a pause just to recognize the case. But I think what you should have done was just immediately rotated this way, since you know that you don't have anything here really, or you could have just looked like this and you would have noticed the case. So either one would have worked, and you eventually recognize, okay, you have an AA perm, so you solved it, and then you just did the AUF. Okay, so for this solve, you had your orange right here, you had blue and red set up to their opposite sides, and you had green in its place, but flipped. And what you did was actually a really good solution, where you did an F prime, and then you inserted green relative to orange, and then you did a D, and then inserted the rest. However, the problem with what you did was that you sort of ended up like this, so you had to regrip and then you had to solve the rest, which was an unnecessary regrip. You could have done your F prime like this, and then the rest would have been regripless. But anyway, continuing forward, you had a pause during your cross to F12 transition, which is something that I noticed a lot in your solves, so that is one thing to work on. So you notice these two though after a little bit. So you insert it into the back, which is good. Next, when I was looking at this, what I immediately noticed is as I'm inserting it, this one does not get this edges here and this corner, they make a pair and they don't get disturbed. But you again paused and then you did a U2 and then a head slammer and then you inserted. So that's fine. And now what you should have done, since you had the edge in here flipped and you had the corner here with the white facing up, you should have done a sledgehammer and an insert. However, that's not what you did. I don't know why, but you did a head slammer and then a U prime and then another head slammer. So that's one thing. And then another thing that you missed is that you didn't see this corner here. So you recognize this edge, obviously, since it's in front of you, but you did not notice that this corner was there. And this is another thing that I noticed a lot in yourselves, is that you don't really look ahead. So you just rotate it, then you see these two, and then instead of doing a sledgehammer, you'd rotate it again. So two rotations for something you didn't need any at all. And then you solved it. And then you had OLO, and then you had PLO. Alright, so for this solve, you had your blue in the orange place, which could be inserted in one move. You had red and orange shared, and you had green right here. And your solution for this was actually quite good. You did a U2, so you had blue in its correct position, red in its correct position, and orange. So you did an L prime to insert orange. And now what you did was, since you had your hands like this in home grip, you instead had to regrip and then do your F move and then R2. What you could have done is like this, and then you could have done that, or you could have done like that. So that was just a tiny thing that you should do, but you should really focus on not regripping the cross, because almost all the time you can avoid regripping. But anyway, continuing, you align the cross, and then immediately, at this stage, you should have noticed this white corner right here, and then its edge is right here. And now once you align the cross, this would have been the first pair that I would go for. But however, you did not look ahead to it, sort of, and instead you had a pause, and then after some time, you notice that you have the edge here and you have the corner here. So you paired it up. And now another thing that you could have done to insert this into the back was wide F prime, L, and then wide F. However, you rotated and that made it a front slot, and what that did was it affected your look ahead for the breast, because now you have your front slot and you have the two back slots open. Had you done it from here, you would have noticed this almost immediately, but anyway, you had to do this, and then after some time you ended up looking like this, which is something that you should never do, because normally you should be able to deduce what your next pair should be. I would not have looked ahead to this. I would have noticed that this corner is right here, and then once you did that U move, you should notice, okay, I have this pair right here. But anyway, you look to the back, and then you solved it, did U2, and then and then you inserted it into the back, which is fine. And then now you had to do a U prime to notice the case, and then you solved it, and now you had this case. And what you could have done, instead of rotating like this, you could have done this rotationless with F2 gen F prime, or F prime 2 gen F in this case. So you could have done F prime, and now you had this case which you could have done with L prime U2L, and then inserted it and finished it off. However, you did not do that. So, but that's understandable. It's quite an advanced algorithm, and most people don't know about it, so that's fine. So you just solved it the normal way. Then you had OLO, and then you had PLO. So I think all in all, your TPS is really good. Almost all the time your cross is good. However, during your cross, you're regripping, and then during your cross to F12 transition, you almost always have a pause, which is never good. And just overall, your look ahead during F12. If you lower your TPS slightly, you can look ahead and be much more fluent than you are right now. You could save rotations and you can have more efficient solutions. And overall, your OLL and PLL is quite good. There's nothing bad about it. Maybe just your recognition for PLL could be a little bit better, but overall, your last layer is fine. So thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And look out for my other videos and my other series, like my F12 trick series, which I have going on as of now.